The 2-week pay period, invented in 1938 and still making us wait until daily pay, where everyone can access their money on demand. This is the future of pay. Learn more at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? All right. Bring a date, your team, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone's welcome to the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Tim.
And this is episode 584. If you like the Odyssey, the movie, try these games. We like to thank all the Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Hey friends, welcome back to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast that often deals with a lot of ups and downs, and most of the time it is dealing with me losing internet for 2 weeks. We are glad to be back, and once again, I'm glad to be joined by Tim. Hey, Tim.
Hey, it's good to be back. I've been on vacation rather than dealing with internet problems, but I feel your pain.
We had to draw straws, and I drew the short straw. Tim drew the high straw, so Tim got to go on vacation, and I got to suffer with no power, no AC, and no internet for an extended period of time. So I like to thank nobody for fixing the thing that they needed to fix. So depending on how are you listening to this episode, past, present, or future, and obviously based on what platform you're listening to this, I apologize for the fact that you got a very confused title, description, episode listing, and organization or order of episodes over the last couple of weeks. It was a thing.
Thank you for sorting it out. I felt your pain in trying to sort through those various shenanigans, but in the end, hopefully you guys enjoyed those episodes. The World Cup is now concluded, which was kind of fun to watch. I watched the very last game, as I tend to do with most sporting things, as opposed to too much of the process, but hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We had fun making it, and
yeah, that was a great episode. Yeah, if you haven't listened to it, please jump back. It was probably one of the best episodes we've done in quite some time. Wow. And it's just a great episode with so many great designers and so many great countries. And the World Cup was great too. Spain won, which was fantastic. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to the great game designers that won our competition. But of course, as always, you have to listen to that episode to find out, Tim.
Who wins?
I know. Well, you were there for it. You know who wins, Tim, but don't say it. They have to listen to the episode. They'll be like, what episode? Oh, okay. It was the one that said Cascadia on it, but had a different picture on it and came out 2 weeks early or 2 weeks late. Yeah, that's the episode. So
upwards and onwards, Chris. Here we go.
Well, thank you for all for dealing with us and continuing to support Board Gamers Anonymous. Again, as always, we don't typically mention this on an ongoing basis because I find it tedious, but considering all the ups and downs recently, please, again, as always, subscribe on Facebook, Board Gamers Anonymous, Board Game Academics. On our YouTube channel, you can subscribe. And of course, any of your podcast players, please follow, subscribe, and do all the things that make this podcast possible, including all the likes, all the comments, all the goodwills and wishes and thoughts and dreams and prayers. And of course, share it with someone that you want to get into tabletop gaming. All right, Tim, with that said, we have a great episode for everyone. The Odyssey, this little independent film from a little unknown director with these first movie stars that have never been in anything big ever whatsoever and whose names you would not know recently came out with a movie called The Odyssey, based upon this epic poem that very few people know about, Tim. So we're going super independent, esoteric kind of content here. But it turns out, Tim, you were lucky enough to find an independent theater in the middle of nowhere to watch this little unknown film that people might have heard about and should definitely possibly maybe see.
Yeah, I mean, the Odyssey is so unknown. I'm sure this podcast will be the first hit when people type that into Google. That it will come up with
That's
this
what
episode.
we're hoping for the algorithm. We need one more person to put us above and over the line there.
But yes, I did have the opportunity to see this on opening weekend when it first came out. My daughter is on a kick, my teenage one, where she's reading through some of the classics. And so she recently read through a translation of the Odyssey, which was good honor. I mean, I've never actually done that. I've sort of watched and consumed some summaries of the Odyssey. I've been familiar with the basic themes, but I have never tried to actually read it through. But the movie itself, I thought was reasonably well done. I am not in the camp of over the moon about this movie, but what it did well. I think the visuals were very, very good. I thought the characters felt reasonably well-rounded. I thought the overall theming of the movie came through about home and hospitality and honor and some of those themes. I think it worked, and it had some heart. It made me feel something by the end, and yeah, some of the action sequences and stuff moved a little quicker than I thought they would. We skipped over some of the iconic things, and a few of the iconic comments from the Cyclops about dealing with nobody. Those kind of things were edited out, which if you read any commentary about the movie, you'll see that some of the gods don't appear, and they play much more minimal role in the story than what they do in the poem. So it felt more like a history movie almost, with monsters and things in it, which feels weird, more than it felt like a I don't know if that's true, more than a mythology movie, but it felt gritty and real in parts, and it was believable in still feeling human, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Yeah, Nolan films are typically great, and they are typically epic in scale and context and stars, and I mean everything about them is so huge and just so massive. And obviously this film being completely filmed in IMAX, which has never been done before, and as Nolan has hoped that you will do in the near future, is see it projected in IMAX, the real IMAX, not just kind of a big theater, but actually IMAX, which is very hard to do because I think there's very few theaters that actually do that. And then there was even some situations, I believe, where the film, because IMAX, the actual projector is so big and runs so hot, that there was actually some damage to some of the films and some of the showings. People had to come back because that camera and that I should say the projector, again, from watching all these news reports and things, is typically not run that long. So, that movie is quite long considering. So
the planetarium does 30-minute videos, not 2.5-hour videos.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to see it in IMAX. I don't know if I will, honestly, but I would like to, ideally. I could. It would take a couple hours to get there and back, but I don't know if it's enough of a thing to make me go all the way out and there and back.
Yeah, you and I talked before, so I think I give it about a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I really liked the visuals. I thought it was fairly well written. I didn't like the edits they did in terms of changing some of the details.
Sure.
And I will say it was a bit jarring to see some of the superstars in their roles. I thought they all played their roles well. But when they first appear on screen, it's that moment of, oh, hey, that's Charlize Theron, as opposed to Calypso. And so there are those moments where you just, I know who that is, or you spend the moment trying to see through the makeup and figure out, oh yeah, that's who that is, right? And that just takes you out of the movie temporarily, which is not always a good thing. But
no, and this film is packed full of just very notable people throughout of it. And, it's like, hey, it's Tom Holland, it's Spider-Man. What's he doing here? Like, oh, okay, I guess, and Matt Damon is okay, sure, that's a thing.
At the same time, they picked actors that I think are generally respected and can play a part well. So, other than that jarring of knowing who they are, I did think they played their parts reasonably well. Yeah.
Where's this fit in your having watched Nolan films? Is this his best? Middle
No,
pack?
I really like his Batman films. They're my favorite
Sure.
Batman films. So those were not surpassed by this one for me.
How about anything? Would anything below it? Lesser?
I don't know if I've seen all of Nolan's films.
Did you
This
see
might fall right behind Batman for me.
Okay.
Like they are pretty. It was pretty good.
Tenant?
Don't know if I saw that one. I did not see Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Inception I really liked, so I might
Sure.
put that ahead of this. The Prestige, Memento, probably behind this. Yeah, it's
Interstellar?
kind of in the middle of the pack for me.
Okay. Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, for this episode, we are taking a look at all the games, however tightly or loosely defined that they're connected to the Odyssey. We have a pretty good list of games that kind of either directly relate to the story or somewhat relate to the themes and the mythology that are based around that. So maybe you had an opportunity to see the movie and would love to play a game that's related to that, or maybe you really want to get family or friends interested in seeing the movie, or maybe dragging the whole family and friends to the closest IMAX theater, which is probably pretty far away. Maybe these games would help encourage that kind of process. So we'll have that list in our feature review. All right, with that said, Tim, let's get on to the episode and let's talk about the games that we want to get to the table as soon as possible. Let's roll for preview. What are you looking to get to the table there, Tim?
All right. I got a little bit of a controversial pick maybe this week for my preview. And to the point where I actually was talking to Chris before we started, is this a game we want to feature? Because it is a Harry Potter themed game, which I know has been a little bit divisive in the board game hobby recently. Those who feel pretty strongly that we shouldn't be supporting J.K. Rowling because of her stances on anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ. And her funding of organizations that are felt to be persecutory towards those communities. And so the game I want to talk about this week is Defenders of Hogwarts, but I realize that that is a barrier to some people considering this game. I think in the end I chose to talk about it because I do like Harry Potter. It's a world that meant something to me and to my family. My kids have all read the books. My 9-year-old is working his way through, and we get to relive vicariously through him and see his wonder and his experience. Get to watch the movies the first time, or through his eyes for the first time again. And it is a world I just really enjoy. And so it's hard as a Harry Potter fan to know that the author is doing some things which I am not in favor of. And the second part of it to me, though, is all the people involved in the project. I think in my limited role as a game designer, to go through that whole process, come up with something that I've worked hard on, put a lot of time and effort into, and that people won't even look at because of a financial affiliation with somebody who has done distasteful things. I think within capitalism and many products we consume, we have links to people or companies that are distasteful. And where you draw the line, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just sort of saying there can be a variety of links or distance that people find tolerable to distasteful things. So this, to me, represents a game designed by two people who are passionate about Harry Potter and their company, more than it is anything anti-LGBTQ or anti-trans. And I don't see any of those kind of themes in this game. That would definitely be a no-go for me. This is a game about setting up Hogwarts to defend from an invasion by the Dark Forces, and you can choose to play as the Dark Forces or as the houses of Hogwarts. So that all being said, what is this game? It seems from best I can tell, it's kind of a hand management, move around the board kind of game where you start with a starting deck if you're one of the house players, and you're traveling through Hogwarts using these cards to explore and try to find a set of ingredients to make a defensive shield over Hogwarts. And there are cards that you can choose to trade for in the market that will boost that deck and make you do more powerful things, move more efficiently, etc. Whereas if you're playing as the dark character, you gain more powerful cards by bumping house players. I'm not sure exactly what that means. And every time that a house player has to pick up and refresh their hand, you move along a dark arts track. And so you're basically trying to climb that track fully and get in the way of the players doing their thing before they complete this defensive dome. So kind of a little bit of deck building, hand management, very thematic within the Hogwarts sort of universe. And I don't know, I think has enough merit from a very small company. It looks basically like a couple started up a company, Mina Lima, that goes back, 20 years, has built sort of experience rooms and things around that theme. They go on to create a design studio that employs others, and creates Harry Potter-like experiences around the world, based in London, but traveling to Osaka, Edinburgh, Tokyo, New York, Chicago. So it seems very much to me people that like Harry Potter and that IP more than your traditional game designer. So I'm always curious when people from outside the hobby take a stab at designing a game, what that turns out to look like. Could be good, could be bad, maybe not drawing from as much modern gaming experience, but for what it's worth, I'm not actually backing it in the end, but Defenders of Hogwarts, for any of you out there who are big Harry Potter fans, I think could be worth a look.
Yeah, I think at the very least, it's good to know that the game is out there. I think this is a very sad situation about a very sad person who has made, again, very sad decisions. And I think we all lose. I think we've all lost, because while this isn't my generation's kind of story, certainly it has been a lot of people's generational story and has contributed to so much of their childhood and has been a force for good in their childhood. And I know it's always very emotionally crippling to find out or see your heroes kind of become the villains in the world when their work previously has been heroic in your own life to kind of support you as an individual and as a child kind of growing into the world. So, it's a conversation I think that needs to be had. And I think it's a conversation that we should have with understanding, because obviously no one agrees with her point of view of any good faith. And also at the same time, the product that she had made prior to all of this was so good and impactful in a lot of ways. I mean, there's certainly problems with the story and other elements that you could point towards, of course. So if somebody wants to take it up, what does that mean? Because as you said, Tim, like, these publishers and designers and, they're not, hopefully not, I don't believe so, because this is on Kickstarter. This was kickstarted, and obviously you could read the comments on BGG. We're not supporting that kind of negative agenda. And yet that's a conversation that continues to need to be had because her actions continue in that kind of way. So I wish she would disconnect herself from this. Obviously she doesn't seem like she's going to, because I think that if she really did care about her fans and wanted them to have something good in the world, I think there would be good that would be done with it. So obviously very difficult. And it's disappointing for a lot of people. I know we had this conversation when CGE came out with their recent Codenames version of it, and we talked about that extensively, and that all still holds. And like you said, you have a publisher and designer team here, or an artist and everybody else. And even with the current products and stuff that are coming out, the new HBO show and stuff like that, it's just sad, Tim. I don't know. It's just very sad and disappointing. And I wish it wasn't that way, because I think Harry Potter's world, I think would certainly have such a wonderful impact on tabletop gaming, because there's so many things you can do. There's so many games, and like, it doesn't seem long term like it will be something that will happen, because thankfully a lot of the people out there are supportive of the right things. And sadly that means that it hurts a lot of well-meaning people, I think. that just want to produce a game in a genre that they love. So
Yeah. I want to be able to take my younger kids who are currently enjoying discovering Harry Potter down to Universal Studios and go to that land, right? Or,
yeah,
um, so it's been a divisive issue even within my own home in terms of where we take it
yeah.
going forward. But there's such a rich history of enjoying it together in the past. And so do we let that go? Do we try to continue that? I don't know where we're going to land as a family on this issue. But I hope that there's still room for discussion. I don't really love it when people shut down discussion and take a hard line with no opportunity for debate. So apologies if this is a very sensitive issue for some people. I completely get it. I'm not trying to offend anybody or tell people how to think. I'm just, putting it out there for consideration that it's more than just J.K. Rowling. There's a studio, there's artists, there's designers, there's a project of love that people have created here that could be ignored, lost, hated, gets a 1. How many ones already on BGG, Chris? Before it even comes out or people try to consider it as an independent product. And others might argue there is no independent product. It's tied to J.K. Rowling. That's all I need to hear. And I understand both sides.
Yeah, and I think the conversation needs to be had, Tim, and I appreciate you bringing the conversation because I know it's not easy to bring up because, again, your support for the LGBTQIA community is strong, and I know that's obviously the most important thing here. And I think it's a conversation that needs to happen because I think in the end we need to educate people, and I think we need to struggle with the situation and ask ourselves like why we feel that way, and we need to share that conversation because I think at the end of the day, I think the divisions that we have in our society have become that way because we haven't had those conversations, and why, and then like you and I talked before the podcast, Tim, like I had my we had our conversation about it, and I explained my positioning on that too. And, sadly I won't be purchasing or supporting any of her products, but I certainly understand someone coming from that kind of experience of that world. Like Star Wars was so big for me, or Star Trek was so big for me. And I talked about, Ender's Game and Orson Scott Card, finding out some of his political views. And, like I love that Ender's Game series, but obviously now everything's changed. It's so terribly sad. And I do, as you said, Tim, I do really sincerely wish that we continue to have these conversations for educational points of view and for supporting people. Because I think in the end, I think the problem that she has fomented is that she doesn't see people as people. And I think that's why we have to have the conversations, because the designers and the publishers and the artists and everybody else, they're people too. And the fans of Harry Potter, they're people too. So I think we have to remember everyone's people and to approach them with that kind of understanding and appreciation so that we can educate and support. And I think that's the most important thing. So, and then everyone can make their decisions about this as educated as possible. It makes a lot of sense. So, take a look. All right. I'm going to talk about a game that I'm really excited about, mostly because, and I'll admit this out right now, Tim, I like myself a cute game. Like I'm a guy who likes a cute game. I like cute little, creatures in my game. I like beautiful artwork in my game. I like little dainty miniatures that, made of wood that, like the production. I love myself a good production. So I guess not too long ago, we had talked about so many nice games that are out there that typically we see them on Kickstarter. And for one reason or the other, we can't generally get our hands on it because it's either very expensive or very rare. So I don't know if you've ever got a chance to play Sweetlands, Tim. Have you got to play it? Okay. Well, Sweetlands was a game from a Tokyo publishing company, and it was beautiful. This really cute fairy tale. It looks almost like Dutch kind of characters, very European kind of, artistic kind of vibe, and as far as the buildings and the character designs and everything. And I was in love with this game. I was just like, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And it was like $150 some odd dollars without the shipping and all the other expansions and everything. And I was just like, and I can't afford it, but I really want it. And it looks great. And I hear it's really hard and crunchy. And games that are super hard and crunchy, but also games that, you know, are really nice to look at, so it doesn't like burn you out, are the games that I really love, because I really love a game that like keeps my attention while my brain is, you know, smoking and my brain is pouring out of my ears. So I didn't get a chance to get this Sweetlands. And then recently it went out of print because, again, I don't think anyone recognized how this game would just like crush the competition. Everyone rushed towards it when it was on Kickstarter, and it sold out. It was out of print. I think it's coming back into print, but there's a new game from the same company, and it's called Rosalie, and also similar artwork and another beautiful big box heavy Euro presentation. This time, instead of dealing with the lands of cakes and cookies and everything else, we're dealing with beautiful gardens of all these wondrous flowers. And your job here is to be able to manage these rare roses of all different types, but also build up a business. And that's what's really always funny about Euro games, Tim, is that when you talk Euro games, people who are not Euro game players don't realize that like Euro gamers really like to build machines and businesses around the most cutest, most adorable things in the world. So like, hey, I want to run a rose garden. And they're like, that's a Euro game? I'm like, damn straight, it's a Euro game. I can't wait to play it. So in Rosalie, that's going to come out, and it's currently on Kickstarter right now. If you want to back it, it backs on Friday, August 21st, 2026. It currently has close to about $1 million pledged. So you have plenty of time if you do want to back this. It's got some of the cutest little windmills and mills of like, I guess, grains and flowers. It's adorable. The game itself is about using robots, which makes it even cooler, to help crossbreed rare roses as you build up your little, I guess, more or less like flower empire, and try to become, you know, the greatest horticulturist of all time. And again, it has that same really wonderfully cutesy artwork. What I really liked about this game, what was really interesting for me here, is you get to pick your player, and then you get to pick some special abilities that come into the game. So your special abilities kind of give you a little bit of an asymmetric kind of start. They're going to give you discounts or benefits throughout the game. And basically, it's about planting roses, cross-breeding some of the different specialties, cultivating soil, dealing with fountains and windmills, and employing robots, but maybe building and expanding, but maybe keeping things short, maybe getting loans. So it's got a lot of that economic engine from a lot of the harder kind of games. Once again, with very cute artwork and some beautiful pictures of rose gardens, too, on top of everything else. And again, I don't have a game about rose gardens, Tim. I don't know. Do you? I don't think I do. I have tulip games, but not rose garden games. And I need a heavy Euro that has rose gardens, Tim. That's all I'm saying.
Put me on the spot, but I don't think I have any. I can think of some games with flowers in them, but not necessarily roses.
That's what I'm saying. So this looks to be a hard, heavy, crunchy game. From what they're saying, it's actually heavier as far as certain elements in comparison to Sweetlands, but it's a little more forgiving. So if you like Sweetlands, but you like a game that is just as heavy, crunchy, but is a little more forgiving, Rosalie might be for you. Or if you like a game that is all about, you know, building up rose gardens and a business as such, again, might be for you. Or if you like really adorable, cute artwork that will keep you going despite the hours of crunching economic engines, this game might be for you, Tim. This is what I'm saying. This game might be for you, Tim. This game's for you. This is what I'm saying, Tim. I'm cutting to the point. You're buying this game, Tim. Someone's got to buy it. It's going to be you, Tim.
No, it's going to be my friend Corey.
Corey, yes.
To the rescue. Because, and for him, it's an entry point. And I kind of wonder some of the success of this. How much is it people simply trying to get their hands on Sweetlands, right?
Yes.
And man, if I'm going to buy Sweet Lands, I'm already paying the shipping. Sure,
Yes.
I'll take a gamble on this company to give me something else that's good at the same time. Right? So it's a really interesting phenomenon to me where the reprint is available through their next game.
Yes.
And so people, well, might as well get 2 for 1. You know what I mean?
I hear you, my friend. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here. But I think that's becoming more and more a standard Kickstarter situation. Let me run through really quickly, Tim, because if I haven't sold you, again, this is an audio podcast, not a visual one. We're getting there, but we need a couple more Patreon backers to get to a visual podcast. So if you really want pictures and videos, we'll talk about it. But right now, what I want to talk about here, Tim, is obviously the adorable, cute little miniatures. If you want to back the game, the standard pledge is $88. If you want it with the expansion, of course you do. Why wouldn't you? It's $127. If you want the game to also have metal coins, because I don't know why every game needs to have metal coins now, but Tim, these games have rose blossoms, Tim. They have rose blossoms. It's not just about the cute screen printed miniatures. It's not just about the coins, but there's rose tokens that look like roses of all different colors. And you could get that. There's 156 rose pieces, Tim.
Maybe
156.
my wife next Valentine's Day, I'll buy her flowers. She buys me this board game. Deal.
There you go. Corey, come on. You gotta get the roses too, Corey. Don't stop short, so Corey. Do the right thing, Corey. That's all I'm saying.
Man,
do the right thing.
Never gonna listen to this podcast again.
Come on. I'm sorry, Corey, but you got to go all the way here. Yeah, I get I don't know. It's again, it's one of those games where if you want to hit me, you want to hit me hard. You want to hit me a game that's heavy and adorable, and this game does both. So, yeah, that's a game, Tim. I will warn you, and I will warn Corey directly. Don't forget shipping is there's the shipping here. So, Corey, since you're backing the complete pledge, you're gonna pay $30.31 delivery because that's a thing. Don't worry, US is paying $32.06 delivery. So yeah, that's a thing. Sucks to be us these days. That's all I'm saying. Everyone else is paying less, Tim. Much less, a lot less.
It's good to be Corey's friend.
Yes, Corey's the man. I appreciate that, Corey. So I will be over really soon, Corey. Make sure you get with the roses, or I'm not coming over. I'm just saying right now. Okay. You mean well, but I got to have the roses. I'm just saying. Tickets to Canada are expensive, so
Cheaper than this game, Chris. Come on.
They are cheaper than this game. Although I don't know, Tim, these days we have to see where the gas prices are. Yeah. All right, well, everyone, there's Rosalie, a game that Corey's going to get with the roses, and then we're all going to go to Corey's house and play the game. So back Corey right now. We'll have to start a fund, Tim. What do you think? We'll have to start a Corey fund on the podcast.
That's right.
All right, well, that leads us on to our roll for review. Tim, you played games this week. Tell us about them.
I did.
And do the thing where you rate those games and make people feel good or bad about their choices in life.
Okay, well, I'm going to do 2 quick ones is my plan. 2 sort of lighter, quicker to play type games. And I'll start with one called Oh My Pigeons. It came out in 2024, and the first clue onto how this game is going to go is there is no designer listed on Board Game Geek.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's kind of a red flag for me, to be honest. I didn't know that until I tried to find it for this, but yeah, it's put out by Ravensburger with no designer. It's 2 to 5 players and professes to play in about 15 minutes, which I think is fairly accurate. It is pretty. So the theme of the game is you're playing benches and trying to attract pigeons to come land on your bench. And how will you do that? Well, you have a hand of cards and you play a card and do what the card says. So, for example, steal 1 pigeon from each opponent, or each opponent loses 1 back to the flock, which sounds kind of a lot like the first card, or the player with the most pigeons loses 2, or gain 3 pigeons, or roll a dice and gain some pigeons, or steal some pigeons, or if it comes up on a poop side, flick it at your opponent's bench to knock their pigeons off their bench. I don't know. If you basically thought of, I'm going to have a game about pigeons and I just want pigeons to move around, you could probably design this game, in my opinion, in a very short amount of time, because all the things that are just like take one from everybody or take two from this person are exactly what cards are in this game. Like, I feel it was a phoned in design where, yeah, other than the sides of the dice, there wasn't really a lot of unique decisions to be made. In this defense, there's one rule where if you find two cards with both have hearts on them, you can play them both at the same time. That's as unique as it gets as far as I'm concerned for a mechanic. And I did not enjoy this game. They lost to me when, at one point in the game, a card said, well, pass your benches clockwise. So now, even if there was some strategy in terms of getting pigeons, losing pigeons, I just gave away my entire bench and inherited the person's next to me. And I thought, this is just random chaos. And
oh my.
Random chaos is not my favorite phrase when it comes to board games, Chris. I got to be honest. I need some level of strategy and a feeling that my decisions matter for me to enjoy a game. That being said, I am not the target audience for this game. People saw us playing and somebody commented, oh, so-and-so would like this game. We should get it. And I thought, a different game for every person. For me, this is a dodge. This is not unique other than its cute little pigeon meeples, which are plastic, not wood. But it plays quick. It's easy to understand. I think maybe for non-gamers or for people who just want to do a bit of take that around a table with a different sort of theme, it could work. So I'm not burning it. I think there are some people who may like it, but for me, it was a hard dodge, and I have no desire to play this game ever again.
Wow. Okay. That's, some games are just game experiences, Tim. That's how I look at some games.
Mm-hmm. So, something about pigeon poop comes to mind as a witty sort of ending to that, but I think we'll just move on.
Move on, Tim. Keep it going.
Okay. The other game that I liked significantly better was a game called Dizzle. So Dizzle is a few years old now. It came out, I believe, in 2019 is my best guess, without looking it up. And designer is Ralph Zerlinda. Put out by Schmidt-Spiele and Stronghold Games. And it plays 1 to 4 players in about 20 minutes. So again, small box game. It's a roll and write, which I know is a turnoff for Chris, but that's my favorite thing to do, is pick games that I know Chris would have no interest in and trying to convince him that he needs to try these games.
Boo! Boo!
There's no cats in this one, but it is roll and write. And no polyominoes. But so in Dizzle, the core mechanic is there are sheets of different levels. So in the base box, there are levels 1 through 4. And if you really like the game, there is an expansion that gives you new player sheets that are levels 5 through 9, I believe, or 5 through 8. And the game gradually grows in complexity. So the core mechanic is you roll a number of dice according to the number of players. So like 2 players is 7 dice, but with 3 players is 10 dice, etc. And then you sort them by numbers. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4, 5, 6. They're standard D6s. Then you draft a dice when it's your turn from the pool of remaining dice. The trick being that the mat or the level in front of you has a specific layout of dice, and you play your first dice on a turn, and then any dice you play subsequent have to touch a dice that you've played this turn. So you are limited in like, okay, next to my current dice, I only have the ability to play 2s and 6s. So if I have a 2 or 6, I add it next to. And then on my next turn, well, now I'm adjacent to 4, 5, or 6. What happens if there's no dice there? Well, I can push my luck and pick up the remaining dice and roll them and hope I get something I need. But if I fail to get something I need, I actually have to put back one of the dice I've previously taken back into the pool and make it available to other players. So that push your luck feels meaningful because the more dice you have by the end of the round, the more spaces you're going to get to X out on your sheet. And if you fall too far behind by pushing your luck and letting your opponent get more dice, and then they get 5 dice in a round and you only get 2, well, you're way behind now in the game in terms of completing your sheet or filling your sheet. So that's the core mechanic. Play a dice adjacent to a dice you've already played. At the end of the round, take off the dice and put X's over those spots instead. And in future rounds, start adjacent to an X and then continue to play dice adjacent to where you started the round. If you ever get boxed into a corner where there's physically no more space to play, then you get to jump and go next to your X's somewhere else and start a new chain of dice from there. So a lot about adjacency, definitely some luck in how the dice rolling goes. What makes the game actually fun and what escalates through the levels is the symbols you're trying to reach on your board. So, for example, there may be bombs. The first player to get to a bomb sets it off. That explodes on everybody's boards. They can no longer get that bomb. It costs them points. There are gemstones that if you cover up gemstones, they may be worth a certain number of points at the end of the game. Certain rows or columns, if you fill them, may be worth points. On some of the advanced levels, you can collect puzzle pieces. So maybe I need 3 blue puzzle pieces. If I collect all of those by the end of the game, I get a number of points. There's a first come, first serve flags with diminishing returns in terms of you get more points if you go there soon. And on some of the more advanced levels, there's things like separate areas of the board. You have to start in one area, and if you want to jump to the other, you have to cover a rocket ship, which then lets you land on the next area and start moving out dice from there. So it gets more complex. Like level 1 was pretty introductory. It was okay, but honestly, if I'm going to go back and play this game, I really don't ever want to play level 1 again. Level 2 starts to get more interesting. Level 3 is even more interesting. Level 4 is interesting. So the more complex it got, the more interested I was. But it let me play with my 9-year-old son where it introduced one new rule, say, per level. So it was a very easy escalation. We played it on the way back from vacation where there was a flight involved that was about an hour and a half, and we played through all 4 levels in that hour and a half. He really liked it. I really liked it. He liked it. We had a good time as father and son in a small amount of space on an airplane playing this game. He said at the end, I'd be happy to play that again. I said, so would I. Let's just start at level 2 instead of the intro. He said, sure, Dad. And it's to the point where if I saw the expansion, I might even pick it up just because I know he likes it. I'm curious to see what else they add on to the mats that would wrinkle those rules a bit. And so for me, Dizzle is a play. I don't know that I'm in a rush to recommend this game, tell everybody they have to add it to their collection. But it was definitely a good experience that if you see it at the table, you could play a few rounds of this, try a few levels, and have a good time. I think it's going to wear out its welcome fairly quickly. I don't think it has a high replay value in the sense of it's discovering those new mechanics each level that we played that I found most unique. And so I'd be more interested in trying levels 5, 6, 7, 8 than I am in playing the levels I've already played. But I think at the same time, the dice add enough randomness. You have choices which direction you're moving on any given level. You're not set into one path. There's a linear path that you have to follow. It's a 2-dimensional sort of choices that you have. So Dizzle from Stronghold and Schmidt-Spiele gets a play.
Well, two very different small time games there, Tim.
Yeah, one worth your while, one not so much.
Not so much. All right, that happens. One actually as a game, and one as a chaotic poop bird kind of experience for some reason.
Oh,
and ironically, the Drizzle one is the one that's better. Who saw that?
Shizzle, my Dizzle.
I tell you. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about a brand new game before Tim goes on with that chain of thought any longer. Wingspan Pocket. This is a brand new game from Stonemaier Games from the amazing designer Elizabeth Hardgrave. Once again, a wonderful number of artists have come together to create these amazing bird cards. I don't know if I have to say too much about Wingspan, Tim, because it seems like Wingspan is clearly a modern day classic that everyone knows. We've talked about it a lot. If you have not played Wingspan, congratulations to your listening to the first episode of a board game podcast ever. But just to give you the highlights of it, Wingspan is about playing these bird cards into a particular habitat. And the bird cards, being birds as they are, the game thematically incorporates some of the elements that the birds themselves really do in nature in some cases. And some of those elements come into play, like placing eggs in certain birds' nests, eating certain types of foods, going only to certain habitats, or even some cases going to multiple habitats. And it's a pretty big tableau builder, action selection situation. And basically, you're getting food, you're getting eggs, you're getting cards, and you're playing birds out. And whoever has the most points based on a number of different situations wins the game. I got a chance to play Wingspan recently, and now this is Wingspan Pocket, which is a very small box game from the same designer, same publisher, that plays in about 25 to 30 minutes. And once again, it's a very similar game to Wingspan itself. But unlike the big Wingspan, this is shorter, lighter, quicker, and basically instead of building birds to all different types of habitats, you are building up to 6 birds in a row, and not in any specific habitat. Habitats don't come into play here, but basically you have a starting card, which is a nest, which allows you to do one of the 3 main actions from Wingspan itself. Again, you can select a bird, you can select 2 cards. Now, in this case, food is represented on the backside of the bird card. So if you remember, Tim and I talked about point salad not too long ago, how the cards have the vegetables on one side and the scoring on the other side. These cards, which are going to make up 4 decks, the 4 decks that are face down are going to show the food for the birds. You're going to have 4 cards in a marketplace that are going to be face up. Those are the birds that you're going to be able to select. So if you choose a bird, it's going to be only one of the 4 bird cards that are face up and selectable. If you choose, or again, you could choose 2 cards. I'm sorry. Let me take that a step back here. So you're going to be able to play one bird into your I guess your single tableau, or you could choose 2 cards, which could be food cards and or bird cards. So you can't take the food and flip it over and become a bird card. So it's either food and or birds that go in, come into your hand pretty much. And then you can lay up to 3, and then or you could choose to lay up to 3 eggs. So build a bird, draw 2 cards, or place 3 eggs onto your birds, because you will still need eggs to be able to play cards out to your tableau. You will still need food to play those birds out to your tableau, and all of your birds will still have special abilities, brown abilities, green abilities that come into play. The powers are different than the powers that you had traditionally played in Wingspan. They're a little more streamlined, they're a little more simple, they're a little more easy to kind of like play. So like, for example, you could have a card that like all insects can be any food. So now it's a lot easier to build the bigger birds that usually take like 3 or 4 fish, for example. And fish were kind of hard to come by and get a lot of those. Well, a lot of the cards have special abilities that are ongoing special abilities, or are going to give food to everybody else, or are going to give cards to everybody else. So this is super quick, super easy to play, super streamlined from Wingspan. So if you played Wingspan, this is kind of like super easy. If you've never played Wingspan before, this is a wonderful introduction to Wingspan. And it's completely understandable in a way that I think Wingspan really does challenge a general public kind of audience who are trying to get into tabletop games. Because for me, Wingspan isn't a gateway game. It's more of like a one step further, right? You have to understand certain basic principles about, modern designer tabletop games to fully appreciate and understand Wingspan. This is something that you could actually play as a gateway game. On your turn, you build a bird, or you take cards, or you take eggs, and that's it. That was your turn. You do that one thing. Everyone takes their turn, they're done. All the cards are face up, so you get to see how people are building and what their tableaus and special abilities are. So it's not like Wingspan where somebody has 12 cards out on their board and they're upside down and it's really hard to read. This is very straightforward. So if you're a fan of Wingspan, this is definitely something you're going to pick up. If you're not a fan of Wingspan, but you've always thought about Wingspan, this is probably what I would recommend as the first game in, because it's super quick. Now, I will say one thing. If you do love Wingspan and you're like, hey, I love that game because of the wonderful complexity of it, you're not going to find that here. You will be disappointed. So be very careful if you run and pick this up because you're, like a hardcore gamer, or you're like this super Wingspan fan where you play with all the expansions and you're just like, what the heck is this? This is a very light game. It's a 2.0 on BGG as far as weight's concerned, and it's really meant as like kind of an introductory or a very fast filler game. I'm going to give Wingspan Pocket a buy, but again, please keep in mind it's a very light version of Wingspan, and you should be very aware of that coming into the game. It kind of fits in the same line, I would say, Tim, as Point Salad.
So we'll call this bird salad.
Bird salad. There you go.
I'm intrigued because we did buy Wingspan with good intentions for a family member who expressed some interest in the game based on its theme.
Yes.
But when we tried to teach it, I mean, I've taught a lot of board games. Maybe I didn't teach it perfectly, but like I think I did a reasonable job. I could not get comprehension from the family group when we tried to play it. Whereas I could see same theme, some of that feeling with a much easier how to play, going a long way in the setting where I tried to teach Wingspan.
Sure.
And so, like you say, I think that's the perfect way to understand this game. And then I wonder if they got the basic concepts in this game, whether I could then teach them Wingspan more easily because they understood this.
Yeah, I would think so. I think some of the more modern productions that the publishings that have come out for Wingspan have now come out with a training set with it. I have found that the training set is even more difficult to kind of get new gamers in, because each of the boards in that training kind of set wants you to follow a particular pathway to learn how to do a certain mechanic. So like one is like tucking cards or such and things like that. So now you're really teaching them that's how the game is played. And then you say to them, but there's other ways to play the game. And then they're like, they flip the table and you don't want to be there. So I think this is a very good introductory teaching level, because it's just that one lane of building that tableau, and you don't have to deal with the territories that the habitats that they go into. And the special abilities are pretty straightforward. Like, you don't have to go, well, this bird eats birds that have a wingspan of 35 centimeters or something. And you're like, what? How does that do a thing? Like, where do I put the card? Or no. This is it, Tim. I think this certainly will re-engage people back into that. Because again, I think publicly there has been that, at least a little bit of that pushback. This game was so very big that people assumed that non-gamers would just pick it up. And Wingspan, the game itself, is deceptively a crunchy game. Like, there's some crunch in that game. And again, if you have not pulled certain cards of that game, there's ways to break the game. Like, there's just cards in that original Wingspan where someone can get a 2-card combo and score like 100 points, right? Because they're just tucking cards. Take 2 cards, tuck 2 cards, take 2 cards, tuck 2 cards. You're like, that was fun.
That's always an issue for me in those big deck games, that there can be strategies that just run away. And in some ways it feels fun when you're the one who gets to run away with them, but as a balance issue is a problem. But I will come back to your teaching on the Wingspan thing, because I find it very fascinating to try and teach a game where, okay, you do this, but don't watch my turn because I'm going to be doing something different. Right?
Yeah.
That is so jarring for somebody trying to learn a game where they want to see what you do on your turn to understand why I might do. And so to narrate, well, I'm tucking a card. Well, why don't I want to tuck a card? Well, you're not playing that strategy, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. I'm not sure that's a win in terms of how to teach that game. I do want to know, though, as somebody who has played Wingspan, is the comboing in this game still satisfying? Like, do I just run my combo once at the end of the game, or how does the triggering work in terms of this card that specifically gives me an ability that helps me to play more cards, or is it?
No, it's purposely meant for you. It's purposely meant to slow you down a little bit so that like you are building 6 cards and that each of the cards more times than not are ongoing abilities. So it is not like Wingspan where you have that very powerful, wonderful moment where you get a certain card and you recognize that this card gives me 2 food. This card allows me to trade food for bird cards. This bird card lets me play an additional bird and meets all the food conditions of that bird. Like, you don't get those combos here. This is very much this card benefits you generically like this. This card gives out food. This card gives out eggs. So it speeds the game up a little quicker, and it simplifies those actions across the board. So there is no like overarching complexity or crunchiness as far as like you would have with like the original Wingspan, where you felt like, oh, I pulled something together as like a combo machine that worked really well. And I think I'm going to continue to go back to this. Wingspan Pocket, it's a Weights 2.0. Wingspan, the board game, the full core board game, is 2.48. I disagree with that number. I think Wingspan, if you really want to play it well, or you want to have a good time at Wingspan, I think it's closer to like a 2.75 or a 3. Because I think that, like what you're saying, Tim, is really the important part is like, yes, anyone could get eggs and food and birds and put them on a board. But do you understand like building combos and how the combos play into habitats? And like, well, you built this wonderful machine in the water, the swamp water area, and you could get a lot of cards, but you never got the card that turned your cards into food. So now every round you're taking one food. So yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, it's certainly something that I've experienced a lot playing Wingspan, and I played with a lot of different people over time. And I got a chance to play Wingspan recently with somebody who knew enough about tabletop board games and got a sense of Wingspan because they had played other, I would say not super crunchy games, but crunchy enough that they got the combos. But even though they got the combos, it was still a little bit of a grind for them. Because I think the biggest problem with tabletop games, at least a little bit on the heavy ones, is not that people can't get it or can't play it, but I think sometimes it's all of that cognitive load that we talk about. Like there's all these balls up in the air, and there's also this anxiety that we never talk about, Tim, when you look at the board and you see so many actions and you're like, I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to kind of manage it. And then the person who's teaching the game is like, well, just take a turn, just do a thing. And you're like, that feels bad, right? Just to do a thing, right? Especially a game that's going to punish you if you didn't put together a combo.
Yeah. I played a game that made me feel that way a bit this week that was very heavy. And so I may talk about that in a future week, but I am interested in this as an intro point, and it's just for maybe a different audience from what I'm hearing from you, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is a little heavier. This is a little heavier than Point Salad.
Okay.
But I think Wingspan is underrated as far as the weight is concerned. I think Wingspan's a little harder than people say it is. Like Wingspan is listed on BGG as the number 5 family game. And I think you have to have a pretty serious family to, like play Wingspan. I'm sorry. Like you all have to be, real hard card gamers to play that, cause it's pretty challenging. And it's great because of that, but
it's sold how many million copies at this point? I think it's in the top 5 selling board games in our hobby, Wingspan. So, I mean, it did a lot of things right, but I think this game that you're talking about tonight, Wingspan Pocket, is probably the one that actually should be on Target shelves or Walmart and in mass market.
I agree.
Right.
Tim, have you played a game called Her Story?
I have not.
I'd recommend you finding a copy of this and playing with your daughter, especially, and your son, but because it's very similar to Wingspan as far as building like a tableau of combos, but it's light enough that I think if you taught Her Story to somebody and then you taught Wingspan, I think that's a little bit mechanically, not thematically, because it's famous women in history versus birds, but certainly there's a mechanic kind of leveling up scaffolding there. But
cool.
Her Story is a very good game as far as that mechanic's concerned. All right, everyone. Well, there goes our games that we got a chance to play this week. Hopefully you get a chance to play them this week and avoid the pigeons. That's what we're just saying. That's our takeaway here. Avoid the pigeons. But nonetheless, and there's probably some pigeon cards in the Wingspan Pocket, but not that I remember, but there could be. There could be some in there. So there, it's fine to play with them.
Cute story is, while we were on vacation, my son was very excited to see pigeons for the first time. And that's how I knew he had grown up in a small town.
Aww. Come to New York. You'll have plenty. You'll have plenty to
Exactly.
see. It's our native bird.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Now on to our feature review. Our feature review this week, of course, is, as always, the voice of the gamers. You are out there seeing a wonderful, fantastic Christopher Nolan movie called The Odyssey, and you're wondering to yourself, what games actually might give me that kind of same vibe? Now, I will say that none of these games have the IMAX super presentation of Christopher Nolan. And none of them, not at least off the top of my head, none of them are as long as a Christopher Nolan Odyssey movie. But some of them are just as great, if not greater, than a Christopher Nolan movie. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Tim, and say that.
It was a pretty good movie, but some of these games are also pretty good. So yes, I think we can say.
Tim. Well, that said, Tim, I'm going to start off with some of the games here that I feel like are both very thematically keeping with the Odyssey, the movie here, and also very specifically about the Odyssey. So right off the bat, Tim, I'm going to start with a game that is called Odyssey.
Oh.
Wrath of Poseidon. This came out in 2015 from Ares Games. And this is a really interesting game. I don't know, Tim, I don't think we want to give away spoilers for the movie, because there probably are some people out there who have not seen the movie yet, are not familiar with the epic poem story, so I don't want to give away too much. But
I can say a spoiler that Poseidon doesn't show up in the movie, so it may not be as much of a spoiler as you think, Chris.
Okay. Well, in the main story, Poseidon plays a very large role in why Odysseus is having problems, to say the least. So, in the game Odyssey, Wrath of Poseidon, Odysseus is dealing with Poseidon, and Poseidon's really messing with Odysseus's travels home. So basically what we're looking at here is a one versus all game. And it has that mythological kind of feel to it. It has that nautical theme to it, because it's ships versus the god of the oceans here. And basically it's an area movement team-based game in which one player is playing as Poseidon, and the other players are playing, I guess, technically as the ships, or the ship captains, as they sail around the Mediterranean trying to get home. And it's a hidden movement game. So basically, you're going to take the actual box itself, and that's going to split the two maps. So you're not going to be able to see each other's kind of movement on there. And basically, Poseidon's messing with all the people in the ships, and you as a ship captain is trying to find your way. This is a very light game. It's a 1.60 on Board Game Geek. It's a kind of abstract-y game. It's just kind of really interesting and dynamic as far as like a one versus many kind of hidden movement game. So if you get a chance to get out and you want to play a game that kind of mimics that grand epic journey and how the gods kind of mess you with a little bit, Odyssey, Wrath of Poseidon.
You sunk my trying.
Aw, there you go. I'm surprised they didn't make a Battleship version. It is kind of Battleship-y.
I will not be surprised if after this movie that comes out, Chris. We'll see.
They did make a very bad video. I want to say it's like a video game looking movie of Battleship. Remember Battleship, the movie?
Yes.
Was it Rihanna in that movie or something?
I can't really remember it that well. I was thinking, why am I watching this?
It was the aliens attacking the ships and stuff like that. Yeah, that was the thing that happened, Tim. We'll try to wipe that away. Go ahead, Tim. What do you have for us?
All right. Well, my first one, it's hard to compete with a game directly called The Odyssey, but what if I put forward a game called The Iliad? Or just
there
Iliad.
You go. Close enough. Yeah.
There you go. So Reiner Knizia designed an abstract game, and somebody decided the Iliad would be a good theme for it. And turns out it was a good choice, because the artwork for this game is pretty cool to look at. So Iliad is a 2-player only game. I believe it came out from Bitewing Games in the last few years. And it is a grid, 6x6 grid, where players are going to compete for controls of the rows and the columns by placing tiles. So think a checkerboard with blue and red spots. Blue player plays into blue, red player plays into red. And you have tiles of value 1 to 5. You have to place a tile from your hand onto the board adjacent to any other tile that's already been played. Tile 5 gives you 5 strength towards the total in that row or column. 4 gives you 4, etc. So the tile 5 has no special ability. It's just worth 5 points. But each of the other 4 tiles has a special ability. For example, if you play a tile 4, you could choose to flip this and an adjacent tile. So if an enemy has a 5 down, you could flip their 5 by playing your 4. Or you just want to take out their 4 or a very specific tile for some reason, you can do that. With a tile 3, you can swap some of the victory tokens you've won with one from the bank. And I should explain that. So when you win a row or column, or when you fill a row or column, you evaluate it. The player who has the higher total in that row will take both tokens from the ends and pick which one they want and give the other one to their opponent. So it sets up this dynamic when there's a random set at the start of the board. Those rewards are also suited to different gods that you're trying to win favor with. At the end of the game, you want to have favor token of each of the 5 gods. And if you have more than one for a god, you take the higher of the 2 or 3 that you have. So you're really trying to prevent your opponent from getting favor with certain gods. You're trying to make sure you get high valued ones. And if there's 2 very diverse, like there's a 10 at one and a 1 at the other end in terms of rewards, that's a row that's going to be fought over more than a row that has a 5 and a 6, 2 very close valued things. So it sets up, you got to read the board initially, which rows and columns am I really going to go for that are going to be contested, how I'm going to play my tiles, use their abilities, use their values to win favor with each of the 5 gods and make sure I have more favor than my opponent. So as an abstract game, I've only played this once at a demo. I was tempted to buy the game. I really did enjoy it. It had some good tension to it. I cannot say it is the most thematic game, but this Greek artwork they put on it with Achilles versus Hector, it works. So The Iliad by Reiner Knizia gets a fairly high recommendation for me as an abstract game.
Very cool. Well, Tim, when I saw the trailers for the Odyssey by Christopher Nolan, of course, one of the things I was, again, I think just like everybody else, a little disappointed or a little weirded out by the art design of like the, some of the military units and some of the armor and some of the monsters, and a lot of that stuff was very different than, traditional, sand and shield kind of epic kind of movies from back in the day. But what it did remind me of is, obviously, I think as you had said, Tim, a more modern interpretation and approach. Now, one of the games that has obviously a very modern interpretation of that Greek mythology and of the gods is Lords of Hellas from 2018. So basically, it's still about honoring the gods, still about building temples, defeating monsters like in the Odyssey. But here, you're trying to establish supremacy over Hellas. So you have troops on the map kind of situation again. So you have Greece in like this post-apocalyptic, yet supposedly somewhat accurate to the traditional stories of these heroes fighting these monsters like the Minotaur and the Cyclops and things of that nature. And you're building up all of these huge miniatures in order to win favors from the gods. I remember playing this way back in the day. I remember that when this was on Kickstarter and everyone was super excited because it had a very Blood Rage kind of vibe to it. And it's not as grand in any respect as far as Blood Rage is concerned, but it certainly had a character of its own. It had a certain metal kind of feel to it on top of everything else. Plus, again, you had all of the classic monsters, obviously not just from Greek mythology, but throughout. So great miniatures, great battling, great mythic heroes and monsters and such. Lords of Hellas. Check it out.
Great. The next one I have is a little bit looser tie to the theme, but it is set in a Greek sort of theme. And I think it's a decent game. Orichalcum is its name. which is a bit hard to find. Orichalcum, in case you're looking for it. It's designed by Bruno Cathala, fairly well-known designer, and Johannes Guppy. I think I mentioned him before. He's the designer of Faraway and Pixies, so he's come up a few times. And in Orichalcum, you have a row of paired tiles and cards that you're going to pick a pairing that gives you one tile to place on your board, and then a card which gives you a specific action. The tile has to be adjacent to tiles you placed before, and you're trying to create groupings of terrain as you play that tile. If you get a grouping of 3 or expand on a grouping of 3, at that point you take control of a Titan. There are 4 Titans in the game, which don't directly show up in the Odyssey. It's more the gods than the Titans, but still Greek mythology. And they will give you a one-time ability that you can flip them and also count as a temporary victory point. And in this game, you're trying to be the first to 5 victory points. So kind of like Kemet, there are some permanent ways to get victory points and some temporary ones. The Titans are a temporary one that somebody can take from you if they then build a group of 3 of that same terrain. Then you have actions where you may gain hoplites or a calcum, which is the ore in the game. And you're going to use those things to accomplish certain missions. You have monsters that are going to show up on certain lava tiles that you have to defeat before you can place next to lava. So there is some fighting in the game with some dice rolling that adds a bit of that battle American sort of feel to an otherwise Euro game that's a race in efficiency to give you the first to 5 victory points. So it's got cutesy art. It has a Greek sort of theming with some titans rather than gods. I have to say a bit of a stretch to tie to the Odyssey directly, but it is a game I've enjoyed. So Orichalcum.
Excellent. Well, the next game I'm bringing up is not so much about the Odyssey, but certainly about all the Greek mythology that comes into play. This is Elysium from 2015. We talked about this way back in the day. This recently got re-implemented as First Giants that was announced a couple of months ago that everyone was like really excited about. I still really enjoy Elysium even more so because I really love the artwork here and I love the Greek mythology. And basically what the game comes down to is you're a demigod trying to win favor over Elysium here, where the Olympic gods are present. And you're utilizing the different gods, monsters, heroes, weaponry, and special abilities in order to make your own standing even more grand. And the main mechanic that comes into play here is when you are actually selecting these beautiful cards to come into play here, what you're being able to do is you're drafting them and collecting them, sometimes in set collections, sometimes you're attacking other players with this, but primarily you're putting their special abilities into play and then deciding when you're going to move them up to the Elysium, to be with the gods in the heavens. And when you do, you'll get an opportunity to score points from them, but you'll lose the special ability. And that's really where the challenge comes into play with this game of how long or how much do I want to benefit from the special ability, but not gain the points that go along with it. So it's a very timing, deck building kind of mechanic that goes into play here. It's a wonderfully beautiful game, fun game to play. And again, depicts all of those kind of wondrous stories from that time and age. Elysium.
Hearing you describe that, I've not played that one, but it's on my list of I'd like to. Reminds me a bit of Valley of the Kings, where you cycle cards through and use their abilities versus Tuck.
Yes.
And that's an Egyptian sort of mythology theme, which is outside our list, but also a good game.
Very much so. I agree.
Alrighty, I think I'm going to give one more to this list. I could quickly mention Santorini. It's got Greek gods, but it's really pretty abstract. I don't feel the gods in that game so much. But I'm going to tell you my favorite game from the list, which probably ties with the last one Chris is going to talk about for, I think, the most thematic in Greek mythology. But Mythic Battles Pantheon is a game that I have invested in heavily. So there's about 5 or 6 big plastic games that I have in my basement. And Mythic Battles may or may not be my favorite of them. There's also Norse version, a Viking version, and an Egyptian version use a similar rule set. But the Greek mythology is where my family sort of likes to live. My daughter was a big fan of Percy Jackson, as was my teenage son. And now my younger son is getting into Percy Jackson. So the Greek mythology has made its rounds through our house and been thoroughly enjoyed through those novels. And Mythic Battles, if you can think of a Greek character, it's definitely one of those big plastic messes where they are happy to have so much mythology to draw from and make as many bits of plastic and beautiful plastic. Like, they are just great minis in this game to deal with. So what is Mythic Battles in a nutshell? You're going to have a certain amount of recruitment points. You're going to draft your team. You have to have at least one god or titan to lead your team, and then you can recruit from the library of heroes and monsters to form your battle sort of troops or big monster units, each of which has very asymmetric keywords, special abilities. And what's in common is they have a dashboard with a slider that starts with a certain amount of base stats of defense and attack and movement and range. But as you get damaged, that slider moves down and those stats lessen. So my unit actually feels like it gets weaker as it gets damaged in what it's able to do. Then it's each dashboard or monster you select will come with a certain number of activation cards, and you take all the activation cards for all the units you have and shuffle them together, mix in a few Art of War strategy cards, which let you manipulate your deck, like looking for specific cards or drawing cards into your hand. And you then play a card on your turn, activate that unit, move it, attack with it. There's you can take two simple actions like moving and attacking, or complex actions, which may be things like eating omphluses, which are mythic stones that give your god more power. And so your goal, it's almost like capture the flag. You're racing to capture these omphluses, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, and consume them with your god as the way to win the game, or just completely obliterate your enemy in the process, which is how my son prefers to play. But there is a lot of fun to be had here. The attack mechanism of the game includes exploding dice, where you're trying to get you only hit if you get on some monsters like a 6 or 7, but the dice only go up to 5. So when you roll a 5, you roll that dice again and add what you roll on it. So it's that exploding dice. It's a lot of fun in certain games. But there's also risk. There's a blank side. So even on the exploding dice, if you roll a blank, that dice is lost. So some nice push your luck, discarding dice to bump other dice. Good battle mechanics within a game of high asymmetry. Very paintable miniatures. Great sort of battle maps. And yeah, there is just boxes and boxes of this in my basement now. If there are any other fans of Mythic Battle Pantheon out there, I will say the company is currently liquidating some of their stock for 50% off. And so if you don't mind paying stupid shipping rates and import fees, it was a good deal before all that. But even with those tacked on, you're still getting it at a reasonable price for as far as reasonable goes for miniatures games. So check out their website if this interests you. I really do recommend Mythic Battles Pantheon.
Wonderful. Well, another game in that kind of amazing, thematic, mythological, giant battling monsters and heroes and Greek mythology here is Cyclades. Now, we're talking Cyclades from 2009, and we're talking Cyclades Legendary Edition that came out in 2024. Both primarily same game, whether you have the older version or the new version. New version has all the new fun stuff and a lot of the expansions kind of combined. Also has a team mode put into it. But if you have not played Cyclades before, first off, you should. It's amazing. And again, it is this wonderful troops on the map game that was at the time unlike anything else out there. It was area majority and influence. You had movement of troops and ships, and you had some dice rolling for some really great action. You had drafting. You were drafting monsters and heroes to come into play to work to your benefit. And primarily, the main mechanic that came into play was this auction mechanic. And it was so interesting and different that your economy, because you are, I guess, giving money, giving gold. You have these gold tokens, these really nice cardboard tokens back in the day when you didn't have metal for everything. You're bidding for the gods' favors. And every round, there are different gods, again, depending on the expansions you have in play, but these gods come out into play. Each of the gods have favors over certain things. Certain gods are more ship movements, some are more military, some are more building philosophers or building buildings or ports and things of that nature. Odysseus is in the game. The Pegasus is in the game. the Cyclops, the Minotaur, the Kraken, all of these different monsters in play. But primarily it comes down to economics, building, and also obviously dealing with the troops that come into play. It has multiple expansions, the Titan expansion, all those other things that come into play. And then obviously the Legendary Edition that recently came out in crowdfunding has pretty much everything in play. You have the classic mode, which is 3 to 5 players. You can play more of the original version. Or again, you could play the larger cooperative version where you're playing as teams. Both versions are great. Both versions are amazing. Both versions let you get to play with all of the epic heroes and monsters and mythologies into play, and plays out a lot of the similar stories and mythologies that come into play for the Odyssey movie. So that's the Clades, both the original edition and the Legendary Edition.
So I've not played the Legendary Edition, but I really do like Cyclades. It's kind of that efficiency of, like Chris said, the auctions, and the gods are thematic. Like Poseidon is the one that lets you build ships and move ships. Ares lets you build warriors and move warriors. Zeus, temples and priests. Like, you do feel a little bit of the theme of those gods, and the monsters that come into play can really wreck with people's plans. And it's just, there's a bit of chaos there, but it still feels very strategic. It's a good mix of Euro and Amerithrash all thrown together. Yes. And I really have some very fond memories of this game. Even just talking about it tonight makes you just want to go pull it off the shelf and play it. And I still have content I've never explored. I just really enjoyed a lot of playing the base game and found a lot of good plays out of the base box. And I know there's more content that I have yet to explore. And so I'm kind of itching to see if my 9-year-old and my 20-year-old want to like throw down and go do so. And I'm sure they'll be keen. So
yeah, well, after they see the movie, they'll be good for it.
Definitely a high endorsement on that game too.
100%. And then finally, I want to talk about the game that probably, at least thematically, as far as mechanics and story elements that come into play, most resembles the Odyssey movie, is the Oracle of Delphi. This is a Stefan Feld game that came out in 2016. And really it comes down to, you are, I guess, one of these wonderful, powerful kind of ship captains that are trying to gain the favor of the gods, in this case, Zeus, the thunder god here. And he is putting out a competition to gain his favor of the gods. And you are put through all of this competition, racing throughout the Mediterranean against the other players on your boat, while you're facing 12 legendary tasks of mythological monsters and challenges throughout. And you're trying to erect statues to the gods. You're trying to avoid all the rough waters and the krakens and the whirlpools and the cyclops and everything else that comes into play, and get to the promised land before anybody else. And again, it's a Feld game, so it has really wonderful Euro elements that you're trying to come into play as you're doing all the Amerithrash stuff like slaying monsters throughout. So a wonderful epic exploration, traveling racing game throughout the waters, seeing all the different challenges that Odysseus came into conflict with throughout the way. And it's just a wonderful throwback game and just a lot of fun from Pegaspiel. So check it out however you can, the Oracle of Delphi.
So I've not played this one. I thought I had played most of the Felds out there. I think I missed playing this one. So another game that you might just create a little itch I got to scratch. So
you got to do it, Tim.
I will say, on a closing note for the episode, one of the themes that the Odyssey really hits home on is welcoming the stranger and showing hospitality. And I just think, again, putting a plug out for gaming is a great way to do that. And so I feel through this episode, I started out with a little bit of a controversial pick, but the heart of gaming to me is make people feel welcome at the table. There's so many great games in the list Chris and I just gave to you to go explore. Lighter games, heavier games, hospitality, gaming go hand in hand. And so take a chance, invite some new people to your table, spread the love, and maybe the gods will reward you.
100% well said, Tim. All right, everyone. Until next time, this is Chris.
This is Tim.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.
Have a good one.